I hired a hitman on the dark web at 3 a.m. The shocking truth nearly cost my life. The clock struck 3, the witching hour where secrets roam and shadows dance. In an era where nightmares can be conjured with a few keystrokes, Jake found himself in the murky depths of the dark web, feeling both exhilarated and terrified. He sat, hunched over his laptop, heart racing like a drumbeat against his chest. A chill wind howled outside, rattling the window, as he clicked on a link that flashed like a beacon of sin. His breath caught in his throat, the light from the screen cast flickering shadows on his face, revealing eyes wide with trepidation mixed with a strange thrill. Surrounded by the familiar sights of his cluttered apartment, clothes strewn around, take-out boxes stacked in a corner, everything felt out of place, like a scene from a horror movie. Then there it was, laid bare on the screen, a sight filled with faceless avatars and promises of anonymity, where contracts could be drawn for the unthinkable. The words blurred together, but Jake's heart raced with a mix of dread and excitement. It felt like crossing a line he could never uncross. Just when he thought he was ready to back out and shut it all down, he stumbled upon a chilling image, a dark figure with piercing eyes, surrounded by a digital haze, offering services for the highest bidder. Jake's pulse quickened. He read the details as if drawn into a trance. The thrill of it all twisted in his gut, making him lightheaded. He could hardly process that he was just a few clicks away from changing his life forever. He imagined the horror of asking for something so twisted, the consequences catching up in waves. And then it happened, the click that spiraled him into chaos. The flat sound of money transferring, like a death knell, reverberated in his ears. Suddenly, he wasn't just an observer, he was involved. His hands trembled as a feeling of cold dread settled deep in his bones. What had he done? Was he really ready to summon this nightmare into reality? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As he stared at the screen, a rush of warmth washed over him, the glow of the monitor juxtaposed against the icy dread filling his mind. Something felt off, like he was being watched. Closing his eyes didn't help. The darkness felt thicker now that he decrossed that line. It was just a game, right? Or was it? The air in the room shifted, heavy with a presence he couldn't identify. Was it paranoia? Or had he invited something real and terrible into his life? He wanted to scream, but he felt paralyzed, fear gripping him like an iron vice. His gut churned. He thought he could hear muffled voices, distant laughter echoing from nowhere, closing in like a noose. With a deep breath, he opened his eyes, ready to confront whatever shadows awaited him. But before he could process his next move, a single notification popped up. Transaction confirmed. His heart dropped into his stomach, and before he knew it, he was standing up, lightheaded. What had he really signed up for? Is this how it all begins, the price of a life? As he paced the room, grappling with his choices, could he still turn back? Or was this just the beginning of a dark journey that would lead to his undoing? Jake's mind raced as he paced, each step echoing in the silence like a clock counting down to disaster. The room felt strange, suffocating, as if the walls were closing in around him. The notification glowed ominously on his screen, a harbinger of chaos. Transaction confirmed. What had he done? He was just a regular guy working a dead-end job, living paycheck to paycheck. How had he let himself be pulled into this dark abyss? As the dread settled deeper, he glanced toward the window. Outside, the streetlights flickered, casting long, eerie shadows. They danced like phantoms, whispering secrets that echoed through his mind. He couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching. He felt exposed, raw. What if he was already in over his head? His imagination spiraled. He envisioned dark figures lurking outside, waiting for the moment to strike. Get it together, Jake, he muttered, rubbing his temples in an attempt to dispel the panic building inside him. It was just a transaction, wasn't it? But this wasn't just any purchase. He couldn't help but replay the details of the dark website in his mind, the user interface, the choices, the chilling photos that consumed his thoughts. He could almost hear the laughter again, the taunting, mocking laughter of those who had walked this path before him. He sank into his chair, the weight of the laptop feeling heavier than ever. Suddenly, a new notification flashed. This one was different. Your order will be processed shortly. His heart plummeted. Order? Was that what he had done? He was just a hapless participant in a sinister game, and it felt like he was tethered to a cord that kept pulling him deeper into danger. Jake couldn't breathe. He grabbed his phone, palms sweating, and scrolled through his contacts. He needed someone to talk to. But who could possibly understand? There was a voice whispering inside him, urging him to call the police, to confess everything. But what would they think? What would come of it? He'd be labeled a criminal, a joke. Who would ever trust him again? As his thoughts spiraled, his phone buzzed with a sudden message. It was an unknown number. His fingers hesitated over it, dread pooling in his stomach. With a deep, shaky breath, he opened the message. All it read was, "You won't be able to run from this." A chill coursed through him, ice cold and paralyzing. Was this part of the arrangement? Or was it just the start of something much worse? The screen felt alive, the message taunting him. It was a game of cat and mouse, but Jake was just a mouse, trapped and terrified. Tiny beads of sweat formed on his brow. He was no longer in control. He sprang up, adrenaline kicking in. Panic surged through him, and he began to search for an escape plan. He had to make things right, but how? There had to be a way to salvage what was left of his life. He couldn't let this define him. But what if it was already too late? The question loomed like a dark cloud, and he felt the weight of inevitability settle over him. He had stepped into a storm with no way out, surrounded by hunters. As he stood there, frozen between flight and fight, another notification popped up. We have an interest in your order. Let us meet. His heart raced. Who were they? What did they want? And where would this twisted journey lead him next? Jake felt like he was standing on the precipice of a nightmare, teetering on the edge of an abyss with darkness swirling below. Was there still time to pull back, or had he already signed his fate? The answer remained just out of reach, fleeting like smoke on the wind. The room felt claustrophobic, the walls pressing in with every heartbeat. Jake's hands trembled as he stared at the screen, the message hovering like a spider waiting to strike. They wanted to meet. What did that even mean? 100 horrifying scenarios raced through his mind, each darker than the last. He rubbed his palms against his jeans, trying to wipe away the slick sweat that clung to his skin. The recklessness of his decision nagged at him like an unshakable itch. He should have thought twice. No, he should have thought 100 times before clicking that link. But it was too late now. With a shaky breath, he weighed his options. Should he connect with these shadowy figures? The idea made his stomach twist. Or should he take a leap of chance, go straight to the police? The thought was deafening, spiraling him deeper into panic. What if this was all a trap? What if they had already sent someone to watch him? The paranoia clawed at him, suffocating. His phone buzzed again, a reminder of the grim reality he faced. We're waiting. The message felt like a death knell. Retreating any further was akin to giving up, but walking into their lair? It was madness. Yet, in that moment of confusion and fear, he heard a faint sound, the unmistakable crackle of footsteps outside his apartment door. Jake's heart slammed against his ribcage, and he pressed himself against the wall, barely daring to breathe. He could almost hear the pulse of his own fear, beating louder than the footsteps. Were they here? Were these the hunters, the ones who would complete his descent into darkness? The thought sent chills rolling down his spine. He grabbed the nearest object, an empty bottle, and tightened his grip. His mind raced with visions of standing his ground, of fighting back. But what good would that do against someone trained? His thoughts spiraled further. A memory flickered to life, A news report about a man who had unwittingly signed up for a meeting that ended in violence. Jake's eyes darted to the window. If he could just get out, maybe, just maybe, he could escape this nightmare. He crept toward it, the sound of footfalls growing louder. Each step felt like a countdown. His heart hammered hard enough to break free, and he held his breath, waiting for the moment his door would burst open. An unexpected knock made him jump, and he shot back, the bottle slipping from his grasp. It clattered to the floor, the echo amplifying his shock. Fear squeezed his throat. Could it be them? Were they here to collect what was owed? He inched toward the door, trying to focus on the shadow beneath it. A voice filtered through, low and smooth. "Jake? We need to talk." The familiarity in the tone was unsettling. It was a voice he didn't recognize, yet felt hauntingly close. His options clashed inside him. He could either open the door, face the abyss, or ignore it, but that wouldn't mean he'd escape. "Who are you? What do you want?" Jake called out, trying to sound braver than he felt. "Let us in. We need to help you." The words hung heavy in the air, twisted and sinister. Help? He choked on the irony, his heart racing as he considered this. Could anyone help him now, after everything? The nagging thought clawed at him. What exactly did he want them to help him with? Salvation or a knife in the back? As the reality of his reckoning hit him, Jake felt the irrevocable gravity of his situation. Did he really have any choice left? The walls were closing in, the voices growing stronger. Did opening that door seal his fate, or was it the only way out? With a deep breath, he reached for the handle. The moment felt charged, heavy with consequences. The door creaked open slowly, revealing darkness and the potential for horror. Maybe it was too late. Or maybe this was just the beginning of another chapter in his terrifying story. The door creaked wider, revealing a dimly lit hallway beyond. The air felt thick with tension, and Jake squinted into the shadows. Suddenly, the figure stepped forward, emerging into the faint light. It was a woman, her face obscured by a hood, but her eyes sparkled with a strange urgency. "Jake, listen," she said, voice sharp and direct. "We don't have much time. They're close." His heart thundered in his chest. "Who are you? Why should I trust you?" His voice trembled despite his anger. "They're not who you think. They're dangerous. If you stay here, you won't make it out alive," she urged, glancing nervously down the hallway. Jake hesitated, the fragments of doubt swirling in his mind. He could close the door, send her packing, but what if she really was there to help? Desperation gripped him tighter. "What do you know?" he demanded, that familiar panic tightening its hold. "More than you realize. They've been watching you since you clicked that link." "I can help you, but you need to trust me," she said, her voice low and soothing, yet filled with an urgency that frightened him. "You say they're close, but where? Where are they?" "Everywhere." She moved closer, her tone dropping to a whisper. "Please, just come with me. You'll understand everything once we get to safety." What did he have to lose? Jake looked back at his apartment, the walls suddenly feeling like a cage rather than a refuge. The things he had done, they had led to this. But was going with a stranger really any better? A muffled voice echoed in the hall, chilling his blood. "Jake! We know you're in there. Open up!" They were here. The hunters had arrived. Panic bloomed in his chest, and with a sudden burst of adrenaline, he made his choice. He stepped aside and let her in, quickly shutting the door behind them. "What now?" he whispered, his breath coming in quick bursts, his senses heightened. "Follow me. We have to move." She tugged at his arm, urgency coursing through her, and he stumbled after her, as she led him through a narrow corridor lined with flickering lights. Doors on either side loomed like dark mouths ready to swallow him whole. Jake's mind raced with questions. "How do you know about this? Who are you really?" "It's complicated," she shot back, her eyes darting around, assessing their surroundings. "But right now, the only thing that matters is getting out of here." They turned sharply down another hallway, and Jake felt a rush of cold air sweep over him, invigorating yet terrifying. He could almost hear the footsteps of danger inching closer. As they rounded the corner, the muffled voice from earlier grew louder, now laced with anger. Jake! Open the door! We know you're in there! Stay low! She hissed, pressing against the wall. Jake mirrored her instinctively, his back flat against the cool surface, every muscle coiled tight. She pointed toward a fire escape door at the end of the corridor. We need to reach that door. It's our only way out. Jake swallowed hard, weighing his options again. But the threat behind them was real. He could feel them closing in. Go! She urged, and without thinking, he pushed off the wall and sprinted toward the door, his heart pounding louder than it ever had. He reached for the handle, praying it wouldn't be locked. Just as his fingers grazed the cold metal, the door behind him slammed open. Darkness poured in, followed by a chorus of shouting voices. Jake! A voice called, urgent and wild. He turned, the figure at the door blurred in his frantic vision, before bolting through the exit, a gust of wind whipping his hair back as he leaped into the unknown. Adrenaline surged as he hit the fire escape, rushing down the metal stairs, every heartbeat screaming for him to keep going. Behind him, chaos erupted, heavy footsteps thundering down the hallway. Stay close! The woman shouted, from just ahead. But just as he glanced back, Jake caught a glimpse of a face he recognized. A face he had never expected to see again. The realization struck him like a punch in the gut. Wait! No! He yelled, panic washing over him. He pulled to a stop, torn between the instinct to flee and the urge to turn back. Jake! We have to keep moving! But his instincts were pulling him back. The fear was palpable, and he could almost hear the promises that voice had made him long ago. How could he leave it behind now? In that fateful moment of indecision, he had only one question racing through his mind. What if everything he thought was real was just another layer of deception? His feet felt glued to the gritty metal platform of the fire escape. The familiar figure, the face that had haunted his dreams, the face of betrayal, was mere feet away, a lifeline tethered to a past he thought he'd buried. Jake! The hooded woman hissed, dragging him back to reality. Her grip was strong, pulling at his sleeve. This isn't the time. But he was caught, trapped in a whirlwind of emotions. Heart-pounding memories flooded his mind. The late-night decisions, the insistent clicks that led him down a dark path he never truly wanted to accept. Those decisions were not just pixels on a screen, they had flesh and blood now. They were real, standing right in front of him. Choose, Jake! The woman urged, her voice trembling with urgency. We need to move! With a sudden jolt, he snapped his gaze back to her. The person behind you, I know them, I can't just leave. Think about the danger! She shouted, panic lacing her voice. If you stay here, you'll be caught in the crossfire. You can't trust them. Heavy footsteps echoed closer, reverberating between the walls of the narrow alley. Each thud sent adrenaline coursing through his veins, sharp and electric. He had to choose. Suddenly, the figure in the doorway cleared the shadows, the anger distorting their features into a mask. Jake, come on! You can't just run! It was Kevin, his best friend, his confidant. But was he really? Doubt gnawed at him. After everything, you're just going to give up on us? Us? Jake yelled back, the words slipping out bitter and raw. What us? You were never there when it mattered. Kevin stepped forward, desperation twisting his expression. That was all a mistake. We can fix this. Just talk to me. The woman squeezed Jake's arm more tightly, pulling him away from the edge of uncertainty, pushing him to decide. We don't have time, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. They'll be all over us in seconds. With every fiber of his being pushing him toward the familiar warmth of friendship, something inside Jake snapped. I can't just abandon him, he shouted. But in the very next heartbeat, he saw the truth staring him down, crossing that threshold meant aligning with the very thing that had sought to destroy him. Kevin's face fell, the betrayal washing over it like a tide. You really believe her? He spat, venom dripping from each word. She's using you just like everyone else. You don't even know what you're walking into. The fire escape rattled as footsteps rushed down the stairs behind them. They were out of time, and with it, Jake felt the weight of the decision crush him. Let us go, the woman urged, pulling him closer to the edge of the escape. Their breaths mingled in the cold night air, the scent of fear and adrenaline powerful around them. With one last glance at Kevin, uncertainty etched in his features, Jake felt that aching tug in his chest. But deep down, a darker truth loomed over him. Sometimes the ones you trust can be the greatest threats. The wind whipped around them as the woman led him away. They hurried down the fire escape, the chaos fading behind them, drawing them deeper into the unknown. But the question gnawed at him like a parasite: what exactly had he stepped into? A sudden shout pierced the night, and Jake's heart plummeted as he grasped the reality sinking in fast. Ensnared by online darkness, what had he truly unleashed? Jake, we need to move now. Before they find you, she said urgently, pressing forward with relentless speed. He glanced over his shoulder, but there was only darkness. What if it's too late? At that moment, as they skidded to the ground below, flickering lights overhead painted their escape in stark shadows, and Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the real danger was just beginning to unfurl. The alley closed in around Jake, the air thick with tension and confusion. The woman pulled him into the shadows of a dilapidated storefront, the scent of mold and rust nestled heavily in the air. He could still hear the fading echoes of Kevin's voice, laced with disbelief and hurt. Shaking it off, he focused on the here and now. Heart racing, he turned to the woman. What is going on? Why are they chasing us? She glanced over her shoulder, eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of pursuit. We are caught in something much bigger than us, she said, breath hitching. You have no idea what you've stumbled into. What did you mean back there when you said I had to choose? He pressed, anxiety clawing at his throat. You can't go back to them, she urged, urgency pouring from her every word. Not now. Not ever. There are consequences far beyond what you can see. A frigid chill swept through Jake, wrapping around him like ice. He had just run away from what felt like a lifetime of friendship. Kevin's face flickered in his mind again, a mix of panic, rage, despair. But the weight of those decisions paled compared to the fire inside him. Who's after us? What do they want? I can't explain, she said, darting glances everywhere. The clock is ticking. The people behind this, they're dangerous. You have to trust me. Trust. The very foundation of his relationship with Kevin had been ripped apart, replaced now by a vague dread. Why should I? You just pulled me away from my past, from everything I thought I understood. Because I'm trying to save your life. She snapped, her voice breaking. If you want answers, we have to get away first. Then I promised to explain everything. Before he could respond, a faint sound of voices drifted through the alley. The urgency in her eyes sparked a flame of determination in him. Fine, let us go, he agreed, his voice steady despite the maelstrom inside. They slipped deeper into the shadows, pulling away from the chaos of the street. Every step felt like a leap into the unfamiliar. Jake's breath hitched with every footfall, reverberating with the beat of his heart. They turned corners aggressively, moving like shadows, but the nagging voice in his head screamed louder. What had he really gotten himself into? As they rounded a corner, they found themselves at the edge of a dimly lit street, flickering lamp posts casting eerie yellow light. She stopped abruptly, and Jake nearly bumped into her. We need a safe place to think, she whispered, glancing over her shoulder. Where? He questioned, scanning the area. All he saw was an old diner closed for the night, its windows foggy and dark. They'll find us. We don't have much time, she insisted, leading him toward the diner, her grip firm. He could feel her pulse racing, and it was contagious. Inside, the stale air was alive with the ghosts of conversations past. They ducked into a booth, shadows swallowing them whole. The tension in his chest tightened. What now? He breathed. Her eyes narrowed, determination merging with fear. Now I tell you everything, but you may not like what you hear. Before she could say more, a voice echoed from outside, low and threatening. We know you're in there. It sent shivers racing down his spine. Instinct kicked in. He couldn't wait for answers. In that heartbeat, he realized the true depth of the treachery surrounding him, and as the footsteps neared, an instinctual twinge of dread settled deep in his gut. Did he really have the courage to face the full weight of what he'd unleashed? Jake, we need to move. Now, she urged, her voice urgent, pulling him from his thoughts. What lay waiting beyond that door could change everything again, and the question loomed like a dark cloud over them: who was actually hunting him now, and what were they willing to do to find him? Jake's heart hammered in his chest, fear pooling in his stomach as the voice from outside grew louder, more aggressive. He exchanged a frantic glance with the woman, who looked ready to bolt, her breath quickening. Come on, she whispered, urging him toward the back of the diner. They dashed past empty tables, the sound of scuffed shoes muffled by chipped linoleum. With each step, Jake felt the weight of the impending confrontation, not just the faceless threat outside, but the reality of everything that had spiraled out of control since he left Kevin behind. Where are we going? He gasped. Just trust me, she hissed, her brows knit in urgency. They reached the back door, which looked as rickety as the rest of the building. Jake's hands trembled as he grabbed the handle, fear clawing at him. What if they were too late? On 3, she said, positioning herself beside him. 1, 2. Before she could say 3, the door burst open with a resounding crash, sending Jake and the woman staggering back. A shadowy figure stood framed in the doorway, menacing and cold. Look what we found, the figure sneered, voice dripping with malice. Jake's instincts roared to life. It felt like a slow-motion nightmare. The woman reacted first, shoving Jake out of the way, body colliding with the darkness. He stumbled back, heart racing as he cried out, "No! Get out!" She yelled, but the shadows loomed over her. The eerie light illuminated the thrill of chaos in her eyes just as the intruder lunged. Jake felt helpless, rooted in place, confusion flooding him. Who was she really? An ally? Or was he just caged now, caught in a web spun from lies? No! He screamed again, adrenaline igniting his limbs. With a push, he barreled forward, tackling the figure. They both landed hard on the ground, but Jake couldn't think about his own safety. He needed to protect her. As they rolled, he saw the unmistakable glint of metal. A blade. The icy surge of dread stole the breath from his lungs, and panic bubbled up. Stop! He shouted, wrestling with the attacker, his fists clenching the fabric of their coat. The struggle felt surreal, like a scene from a dream filled with jagged edges. In that swirling chaos, the truth began to seep in: Kevin's betrayal, the danger looming over him, and now this. But they'd been chased. They weren't just in trouble, this was a matter of life and death. With a surge of adrenaline, Jake grabbed the assailant's wrist, twisting hard. The blade clattered to the floor, the metallic sound echoing ominously. But as he pushed to get on top, the shadow gave a fierce kick, knocking him off balance. The woman lunged, grabbing a chair and swinging it toward the attacker, catching them squarely in the side, stunning them just long enough for Jake to regain his footing. Now! She yelled, urgency lacing her tone. Jake scrambled from the floor and took her hand, racing toward the back exit again. The adrenaline surging through him made his pulse roar in his ears as they burst out into the alley. Cold air slapped against him, awakening all his senses. But just when he thought they'd escaped, a shout echoed from behind, sending a violent shiver down his spine. They're trying to get away. Stop them! He processed the threat. Survival became instinct. They turned a corner, hearts racing, but there was still a choice looming ahead. Would he fight? Before he could answer, the woman squeezed his hand tighter, her eyes blazing with a mixture of fear and resolve. We can't stop. We have to find the truth. It's the only way to end this. Jake's mind raced. The truth? What truth could possibly justify all this chaos? But he knew deep down that he had no choice. He pushed forward, heart pounding, knowing that every corner they turned could lead them further from safety, or deeper into the unknown. Keep going! she urged, their feet pounding against the pavement. A sense of urgency wrapped tightly around them, growing heavier with every step. But one thought clung to him, refusing to let go. Was there a part of the truth that could save him? Or would it lead him straight into the arms of the very danger they were running from? He glanced at her, determination mingling with uncertainty. What if the truth only brings more danger? And as they ran, the shadows around them flickered ominously, whispering secrets Jake was far from ready to unearth. They darted into the night, breathless and wide-eyed, the adrenaline coursing through their veins like fire. Jake felt the woman tug him into an alley, the brick walls closing in around them, making each heartbeat echo in the tight space. Darkness surrounded them, but they kept moving, fueled by desperation. "Go left!" she urged, pointing toward a narrow side street. "Where does it lead?" Jake asked, almost too breathlessly. "Does it matter?" Her voice was sharp, urgency pressing against them. With no better option, they turned, dodging debris and trash cans that seemed to jump out at them. The alley was a maze, twisting and turning, each corner unveiling a deeper shadow. Jake felt the weight of the world on his shoulders, and for a moment, he couldn't shake the feeling of being hunted instead of just fleeing. "Why are they after you?" he blurted, his curiosity blooming despite the fear drenching him. "I'll explain later. Right now, we need to keep moving," she snapped, glancing back over her shoulder. The glint of fear in her eyes only stoked Jake's own fire of confusion. Everything was spiraling. Kevin's betrayal hung over his head like a storm cloud, and now here he was, running alongside a stranger who might not even be on his side. A part of him wondered if he'd just swapped one threat for another. They skidded to a stop in front of a rusty door, half hidden behind an old sign that hung crooked. "This way," she urged, shoving it open with a creak that shattered the silence. Inside, the atmosphere was thick, filled with the musty scent of old wood and something metallic. Jake's heart raced as he stepped in, quickening his breath as they entered a dimly lit room. He turned to ask her what they were doing there, but she was already moving toward a trapdoor at the far side. "We can hide here for a moment. Is this safe?" Jake's voice cracked, the weight of their precarious situation crashing down around him. "Right now, it doesn't matter," she replied, pulling at the latch. "We need to regroup and figure out our next move." As she pulled the door open, a sudden shatter echoed from outside, making them both freeze mid-action. The sound of boots pounding the pavement sent chills down Jake's spine. The hunters were closer than they realized. "Stay quiet," she whispered, her voice dropping to a near-silent hiss. Jake nodded, gripping the edge of the trapdoor as they lowered themselves down, their feet landing softly on an uneven floor below. The shelter felt claustrophobic, but there was no going back now. Above them, voices filled the air, anger and frustration mingling as shadows flitted across the worn-out floorboards. Jake pressed his back against the wall, panic seeping through his pores. What if they found them? "We have to stay calm," she breathed, her voice steadying him just a bit. "Listen, I wasn't completely honest before. There's more going on than you know, about Kevin, about all this. Just tell me." Jake's impatience flared, the pressure of the moment closing in on him. "Not here," she insisted, her eyes darting to the trapdoor. Just then, the voices grew louder. One of them cursed, the words cutting like knives. They couldn't have gone far. "Check every corner." Jake's stomach plunged. "What if they come down here?" "Then we'll have to fight," she responded, her jaw set with determination that surprised him. He could feel it, a flicker of hope flaring amidst the chaos. But then she added, "And if we confront them, you have to promise to trust me no matter what." The weight of those words fell heavily over him, filling the room with deeper shadows. Could he truly trust someone he barely knew? From above came another crash, heavy footsteps. "Jake," her voice trembled. His heart raced as uncertainty twisted in his gut. There was no backing out now. "Fine. I'll trust you, but there better be a damn good reason for this chaos." The trapdoor creaked ever so slightly, the air thick with tension. They were just minutes away from the truth being bared, whether ready or not. And as long as they were tracing shadows, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that more than just secrets lurked beyond the trapdoor. Would the truth only bring more darkness to him? Would it cost him everything? But before he could contemplate it further, the door above them burst open, and the silhouettes of their pursuers loomed ominously above the hatch. Jake's heart pounded as the figures above them shifted, ready to pounce. He could barely differentiate between the voices, each indistinct word shrouded in panic and anger. The woman beside him held her breath, tension radiating from her like heat from an open flame. "Where are they?" A rough voice echoed down, reverberating through Jake's chest. "Spread out. They can't be far." Another voice barked. Jake felt the urge to bolt, but he froze, every muscle in his body locking in place. He caught the woman's eye. She was staring at the trapdoor as if willing it to become a wall, a barrier to buy them precious moments. "Shush," she whispered, her finger pressed tight against her lips. Every second felt like an eternity. The shadows above shuffled, and a boot creaked on the floorboard right around the hatch. Jake's breath hitched. He could nearly see the outline of a vicious, determined face peering down at them. Suddenly, she gripped his arm. "Get ready!" Before he could register what was happening, she lunged forward, striking the latch of the trapdoor with an intensity that radiated fear-induced adrenaline. The old, rusted door swung shut with a soft thud, silencing the outside world a moment of blissful peace before the storm. "What are you doing?" Jake hissed, his heart racing. "They won't expect us to go up. If they think we're down here, it gives us a chance." She shot him a determined glance before moving stealthily towards the ladder. "Are you crazy?" he gasped. Ignoring him, she climbed quickly, her body pressing against the rickety rungs. "We have to take control first. Stay close." With dread thrumming through him, Jake followed. Each step taken felt heavier, dread weighing down his chest. Adrenaline still surged, but the fear crawled right alongside it. As they peeked through the trapdoor, what lay before them sent a chill creeping down Jake's spine. Directly in front of the door, illuminated by a flickering bulb, stood three men, faces etched with finder's rage, their bodies tense with impatience, and weapons drawn. They scanned the room, muttering frustrated curses as they prowled forward, searching for any trace of their escapees. "They're not here. We have to check the back rooms," one shouted. Frantically, Jake exchanged glances with the woman, realizing she was right. The trapdoor was their only chance to sneak away before they were caught. Just then, a flicker of recognition crossed her face, followed by pain. "Kevin," she whispered, her voice seeming to break under the weight of the name. Jake's pulse blared in his ears. "What about him? This is all his doing." She stuttered, eyes gleaming with a mix of betrayal and anger. "Tell me. What did he do?" Jake was losing the thread of the conversation, desperation clawing at him. But her words were lost in a sudden uproar above. "Check the corners now. We've got to find them before they slip away. Now is not the time." She seethed, urgency manifesting in her voice. They needed a plan. One wrong move and all their frantic efforts would be in vain. But beneath her fierce exterior, he could see a flicker of doubt. Had she truly been betrayed? It made Jake's stomach churn. His safety was not guaranteed, and neither was hers. "Do you trust me?" she asked, her voice low yet insistent. His mind warred with itself, but before he could utter a response, the trapdoor creaked ever so slightly again. The shadows overhead shifted closer now, inches away from finding them. "Jake," she urged again, the serious tone driving urgency through her words. He swallowed hard, the implications far too vast for a quick decision. It was now or never, but the stakes felt higher than ever. Did he trust her? Just then, a loud crash echoed, and one of the men exclaimed, "They have to be down there! Move the damn door!" Panic surged, clutching at Jake. They ran out of time. But what lay beyond the hatch was still cloaked in uncertainty. And as the trapdoor creaked under their weight, the truth waiting above was more terrifying than they could imagine. Jake couldn't shake the overwhelming sense of dread that gripped him as the trapdoor lurched beneath them. It felt like time itself was suspended. He glanced at the woman, searching her eyes for any flicker of reassurance. In that moment, he knew they couldn't hide any longer. With a sudden burst of determination, he pressed closer to her side, a flicker of resolve igniting within him. "We're going to confront them," he said, voice steady despite the cold slithering through his veins. "I need to know the truth, and this ends now." "Are you sure?" "Once we go up, there's no turning back," she warned, her voice low but firm. The intensity in her gaze reflected the urgency of their situation. "Yes," Jake replied, his heart racing against his ribcage. "Let us do this." They steadied themselves against the creaking door, a united front against the chaos beyond. With a shared breath, they swung the trapdoor open, revealing the startled eyes of their pursuers. The moment felt surreal, as if time had slowed. "What the hell?" one of the men barked, eyes wide in confusion. Jake wasted no time. He surged forward, adrenaline propelling him ahead as he took a stance, blocking the doorway. "You want me?" he shouted, defiance echoing in every syllable. "Then come get me." The men exchanged glances, confusion rapidly morphing into aggression as they readied themselves. "Catch him!" a gruff voice barked, and in that split second, Jake felt the weight of the world weighing down even heavier. But the woman beside him didn't hesitate. She lunged forward, kicking the nearest assailant with a furious determination. Jake's heart raced as chaos erupted. Their fight felt like something out of a frantic action movie, but he was in the middle of it, desperate and disoriented. Together they fought, dodging fists and lunging bodies, fueled by primal survival instinct. Jake managed to tackle one of the men to the ground, the force of the impact rattling his bones, and he quickly grabbed the weapon the man had dropped, a simple black knife. "Back off!" he shouted, brandishing it like a shield of resolve. The man on the floor looked up at him, fear glimmering in his eyes, and Jake felt a surge of power wash over him. The woman had taken down another assailant, and they were outnumbered, but the tides were shifting. "We need to find Kevin!" she shouted through the fray, determination anchoring her words. "He's the key to all this." "Where is he?" Jake yelled back, barely managing to evade a wild punch aimed at his head. Her next move was impulsive. She wedged her shoulder against the wall, looking back at Jake. "The back. He might be there. Let us force our way." With newfound unity, they charged forward, pushing past the few fallen foes. The adrenaline pumped through their veins like a powerful current, guiding them toward the unknown. They burst through a heavy door at the end of the hall, breathing ragged and minds racing. The room on the other side was dark, flickering lights illuminating the corners with an eerie glow. And there, in the shadows, stood Kevin, a mix of surprise and anger dancing across his features. "Jake! I can explain!" he called out, but Jake felt the anger rise like a tide inside him. "No more lies!" Jake shouted, stepping closer, clutching the knife tightly. "You've led me straight into danger, and now it's all spiraled out of control." Kevin held up his hands, a petty plea for calm. "You don't understand. They're coming for me too. I thought I could control it, but control? You think this is about control?" The woman interjected, glaring at him. "You've put us all at risk. You knew about the consequences." "I wanted to protect you," Kevin said, desperation dripping from his tone. "I didn't want you to get hurt." Frustration poured out of Jake, but it was mixed with a shard of confusion. "We need to stand together, against them, not turning on each other." Just as the atmosphere shifted back to confrontation, the distant sounds of chaos echoed through the hallway behind them. The hunters would be here soon. They had to make a choice: fight together or remain divided in their own shadows. "Jake," the woman said softly, capturing his gaze. "We need to run. Now." But Kevin, desperation etching deeper in his expression, stepped forward again. "Wait. We can find a way to stop them. Together." Time hung heavily in the air, stretching the seconds until tension pulsed loudly in his chest. "Are you really in this together, Kevin? Or is this just another façade?" Jake whispered, searching his friend's eyes for truth. The answer lay behind Kevin's scared gaze, a glimmer of fear that felt like betrayal. In that split second, Jake understood. Trust was a fragile thing, and it could shatter its foundation. The woman nudged Jake gently but with purpose. "We can't stay here, it's not worth it," she urged, their world swirling around uncertainty. As the footsteps grew louder, every pulse of fear struck deep. Jake had made a decision, but at what cost? "Let us go." He grabbed the woman's arm, bolting towards the nearby exit without a second glance at Kevin. The noise of pursuit behind them surged with terrifying urgency, and with adrenaline coursing through his veins, he steered them into the chaos, ready to reclaim control over his life that had caught fire in the dark web's grip. Each desperate step, fueled by the need for truth, pulled him further from betrayal, weaving an intricate tapestry laced with choices that shaped destinies. The dark web's grip was still looming, but as long as they moved together, they might just find the light that awaited them on the other side. Freedom felt tantalizingly close, and as they surged into the alley, Jake could feel the weight of the past lift from his shoulders. His decision still lingered like a ghost, but now he could face whatever shadows chased them down. They pushed forward into the night, exhilaration mingling with fear, ready to confront the chaos waiting just ahead. As the dawn began to break over the horizon, everything felt like a rich tapestry woven with fire, fear, and fate, leading him towards redemption and, hopefully, closure. But first, they needed to make it through the darkness that lay just around the corner. If only the truth didn't burn as brightly as the sins in their pasts. Now, as the story wraps around them like a midnight cloak, it seizes the heart with urgency. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Let us grow this community together. Flood that comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means the world.